right, everybody, welcome back. Podcast, I believe we're on episode number 33. We are going to do, with this one, we're going to, I'm not going to say wrap up, because I don't think it's the end, but what we're going to do is kind of circle back on Arrow, the little Malinois Shepherd that we had here for a month. She just went home yesterday, so we're out of Kleenex here at the house. The girls hate when we send dogs home. I gotta be honest, I'm not real big on it either. They grow on us, they become family, we fall in love with them. It's always reassuring and it makes it doable because we know the homes they're going to. We know how much the people love them and miss them while they're here, so that makes it tolerable at least. We had a really nice time handing her off. And so I thought what we would do is touch on that, circle back on that, and then kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at doing moving forward with Arrow. Because like I said, I just don't think the journey's over. It's certainly not over for her training. It is merely just starting. But I had, from her being here, is kind of wrapped up. And that we're going to work on how we're going to be able to do it in the future. I've never done anything like it before, so we're doing it a little bit different. It's I'm not going to be physically the one doing the training. I had a great opportunity for 4 weeks to really literally get a hold of the dog and get a really good feel for her. I felt like I got a good feel for her after about first 4 or 5 days. Really enjoyed working with her. She's obviously a different style dog, but I didn't change the way I train. I took a very similar approach, and I think we saw equal results. And so part of the value of it was for us to show you guys that it doesn't matter what the dog, the type of dog, the style of dog, the breed of dog, it just doesn't matter that much. What matters is how we approach it, how we get them to understand what we want. I do think that dogs are wired to make us happy. I think they want to please us. It's just a matter of figuring out a way that they can understand. And so that's what we had to do with Arrow. And she responded really well. She's really an intelligent dog. She was a beautiful dog. She looked really nice. But it was fun to have the chance to do that. What I think is important is, and I want to kind of catch you up on maybe, or get you ready to prepared for kind of the next phase of this is, her owners, Josh and Sarah Bowmars is their name, and they came up and they ended up driving up. They were going to fly up, and a flight got canceled, so they were going to be late, and so they ended up driving up. They're from Iowa, so they came up from near the Des Moines area. Ankeny, I think, is the town maybe that they live in. But so they drove up, and we spent 5-6 hours, and it was really good because what it did for me was I knew their dog better than I knew them prior to yesterday, and I was forced to figure their dog out in a relatively short period of time. Usually is not a challenge for me, because I think it takes a day or two, and I usually get a pretty good feel, like real good feel for the dog. You can usually, I feel like I can figure them out pretty quick. A couple hours I can get a pretty good read on them. A couple days is, now we're making headway, we're moving in the right direction. And that's what we were able to do, I think, with Arrow. I really liked that they came because we had a chance to talk about it. And one of the things that they had all the right answers. Like I was real impressed with them as owners. I was impressed with them as, I want to say, kind of students. Like I just think that they were really willing to learn, and they were really open to learn. And part of it probably had to do with, I think before we got her, she was about 14 or 15 weeks old, I think, when we got her, when she came up here. And I think that they felt a bit of, wow, this is, it all of a sudden, little puppies are pretty easy, because they're just, they're limited with what they can do physically. They're not that fast. They're not that strong. They're not that big. It's easy to catch them. You can pick them up. A lot of times they're not necessarily the boldness in their mind to like really challenge you. So I think, that puppy phase is awesome, but the puppy phase is also really sketchy and a little bit slippery if early on you're not putting in the work that I think needs to be done in order to start the puppy out in the right direction. And you don't really realize it until all of a sudden you wake up and you go, oh my God, the dog's a lot bigger now. This is becoming a lot harder to manage. And so I think that in conversation with them, they said, prior to her coming here, they were to the point where they said, we're gonna have to find some help, I think, because she's getting to be a little bit much to handle. Sweet dog, like she's not doing anything wrong, but you could. I experienced it. I feel that way at times. So I don't want you to think that I'm saying, oh man, they didn't know what they were getting into, and then all of a sudden they had a dog. Maybe a little bit, but not. I just think everybody goes through it, myself included. And if you don't know, I'm a big believer in when you're training, when you get a puppy, you really do have to have that end vision in mind, because you're working towards it, and you're always working towards it. And so if you get the puppy and then you start thinking about the end vision months into it, I'm not going to say it's too late, but it makes it a hell of a lot harder, as opposed to starting out with your end vision in mind right from the bat, right off the bat. Right from the go. I just read an article in Gundog Journal, which is it's a European magazine, really nice one, and it was about that. And the guy was talking about starting out this puppy. I got it right here. The article, it was a spaniel guy, but it was, I forget what the name of it was, but it was I really liked it. I'll find it here, but so the article talked about, it said, "Start as you mean to go on," is the name of the article. So guys got a kennel. He raises spaniels. Guy's name was, I don't see it, but Ben Randall is his name. So the article was all about starting out with the puppy with the end in mind, and I just think that that's important. Well, with Arrow in particular, I found out a lot. Josh knows dogs. Josh was raised with beagles. His dad raised beagles, so like he got the idea of the dog training stuff. It's just, I don't know that it was there's a big difference between growing up in a family that raises beagles and having a Malinois Shepherd mix that lives in your house. And so these foundational things are so important. And when you don't have that for a while, you either maybe didn't know it or you've forgotten it. And so what I think is important was their willingness and their excitement to kind of jump on board with where she's at right now and continue moving forward with her. And so our goal is going to be work through this kind of long distance with them, continue down this path. They're real excited about it. I'm real excited about it. I think Arrow is looking forward to it. Like, Arrow is a dog that I found real quickly likes to be challenged, likes to have stuff to do, and if you don't, she'll find mischief, and she'll test. She was a testing dog. Her personality was that she will test. But if you pass the test, meaning you show that you're not going to give in to her little tantrums, she was very forgiving, and she almost was apologetic, and would. But if you didn't, she'd walk all over you. And so that's where some of that stuff is going to be really important. The other thing that I liked about it was the two of them, Josh and Sarah, both, I think, are real actively involved want to be and are actively involved. So one of the things that I think is going to be really important is consistency. I think consistency is key, just in the process of a dog forming a habit, like being consistent. You can really easily and quickly train a dog with structure and consistency. You got to be careful, because if your structure is set up wrong or your consistency is the wrong stuff consistently, that stuff forms just the same as the good stuff. So but when we talk about, so that's part of consistency, but then when you start talking about consistency within the house, the two of them both are going to have to be on the same page. They're both going to have to be consistent with commands and expectations, and it's going to be a communication enhancement, in my opinion, for them as a couple. But it's no different than, I think it's very similar to like raising kids. You know, if dad has one set of rules and mom has another set of rules, it's real easy for the kids to find themselves in a bit of a pickle at times, because it's hard to live by two sets of rules under the same roof, and it's quite honestly, I just don't think it's fair. So by my wife, we've got kids, and by us having kids, it really forces the idea of better communication. I mean, we should communicate better no matter what. I'm the worst at that. My wife is a saint for dealing with my lack of communication skills. But I think that bringing in dogs, bringing in kids, it is another element that complicates things and makes things a little bit harder, which forces us to over communicate at times and be on the same page even that much more. It's that much more important. So I do think that that's going to be something that I think they'll benefit from. I think they'll gain from it. If they do it well, which I think they will, Arrow's going to benefit from it the most. She will gain from it the most. So it was really a good chance for us to discuss more in detail, for me to hear from them. I hope, and I just think, I know from what they said and what our conversations were, I think they were pleased with the progress. But I also think they're really smart in that they realize this is just the tip of the iceberg. Although it is, and we talked about it, because it's hard to see change in short periods of time. It's a lot easier to see it stretched out over a little longer duration. And so 28 days or 27 days or whatever that dog was here for is not, in the big picture of things, it's not a very, very long time. But I don't know, where are we been with Go Back Cody?
29.
We're on like 29 right now. So 29 days is how long we've been doing Cody Go Back, which is a video series that we're training this dog hand signals. And that doesn't seem like that isn't very long. That's a blink in the big picture. But from day 1 to day 5 to day 15 to day 29, it's very dramatic differences and changes. But they're all just a culmination of these little baby steps. And the same is true with Arrow, and the same is going to be true with, as she goes on, the same is true with Bella, the little puppy that we're starting now. Like, we're not going to really notice big changes until we don't realize a relatively significant amount of time has passed, and if we keep it up in between. Like, that's the thing is, I think some people get to the point where they go, I'm just not seeing the results, and so they stop doing it because they're not getting the results that they're looking for. I'm telling you right now, you won't get results if you stop. And so that's the thing that you have to continue pushing on. And I don't, from the little amount that I do know, About Josh and Sarah, I can tell you right now, they are not people that give up. They are going to commit and see stuff through. They've done it in lots of aspects of their lives, and this dog, I think, is going to be an extension of that. The results will be positive. Quite confident in that. So we're going to continue. Wrapping up with her, we were doing, the things we really were working on were super elementary and super foundational. Heel, sit, recall. Her recall was good when it came here. It got better while she was here. Kenneling up. That was maybe they were the most impressed maybe with something like that, was she'd go into the kennel willingly and she was quiet. She's not quiet all the time. She's not 100%, but she's so much better than she was when we first started. And so we're on the right. We just, on some of these things, we just kind of regrouped and pointed in the right direction and started taking steps that way. But kenneling up, some steadiness, a little bit of retrieving. We introed her to water. She went into the water and kind of found a fondness for that. She's not in love with it, but she got in and she swam and she had a lot of fun with it. Lots of things that were very puppy-like introduction-wise, but almost always what was interesting, and then probably just the idea of her patience on lead and her ability to just not have to be on the go constantly in her mind and physically. But one of the things that I think we took away from the whole thing was it was a lot of very small things, but extremely consistent, and we didn't waver. It was structure, and that structure was something that she proved to thrive on. I think she just got a lot better the more she knew what was coming. One of the things she struggled with was place training. She's a creeper. She's a ninja. She would get off the bed and I wouldn't hear her. So if I didn't have her in my eyesight, in vision, she'd be off the bed and all of a sudden I'd hear her messing around with another dog in a kennel or something. And I'd go, how did she get off? So that was one thing that needs work. But that was in the setup. I should have had the bed position differently. And so there were things that we still need considerable work on. She needs considerable work on. But now she's going to move back, and my hope is that she transfers a lot of that behaviorally from one location to the next. And the key with it, I think, the element that we can control and is going to be really important is that handler's aspect. So we're going to continue to communicate with Josh and Sarah on the good things and the things that don't go so well, and then we're going to figure out how do we train Arrow long distance is what it's going to be, and it's going to be channeling it through her handlers now, which is Josh and Sarah, and with the luxury of the technology that we have these days, we can do it. So I'm excited about it. It's something we've not done before. But we will continue it. Now we need to post a few more of them because we haven't even posted all the videos that we did with her. We didn't do a ton of videos. I wish kind of we had done more, but we did the best we could. We did as many of them as we could, and her videos were different in that I think they were more generalized and big picture than micro technique. I think the technique stuff is in our Live with Spry stuff. It's going to be in our Bella stuff. It's in our stuff that is we have longer, more consistency with. Our YouTube channel has a lot of that stuff on it, but also our puppy DVD. Our puppy DVD is, I don't know how long, hours. It's a couple hours long. It covers heel, sit, stay, come when I call you. A little bit of place training, crate training. That's it. But so it's not a ton of stuff, but it's really in depth, and that's where we talk a lot of the details out of what we were doing with Arrow. We did a lot of the stuff from our puppy DVD with Arrow. We did a lot of foundation, maybe more foundational DVD stuff with Arrow, the heel work, the mechanics, the feel parts of it. So the videos that we did with Arrow were more like a little broader, bigger picture stuff, because we knew we were limited somewhat with time. The details, the specifics, that's the stuff that we have in our DVDs. That's the stuff that we have on our website, links to our YouTubes and all that stuff. So, but yeah, so that was, I wanted to, while it was fresh in my mind, she went home yesterday, while it was real fresh in my mind, I wanted to kind of wrap up our in-house Arrow project, and now we just taken kind of another chapter to it, and now it's kind of long. I call it almost like long distance tutoring, is how we're going to approach it. So, and I think what we're going to do is I think we're going to look at shooting or shooting to record some podcasts with Josh and Sarah, so that they can ask questions, and it can be, they're going to need to do it anyway. And so what we talked about was, why don't we record it like as a pod and use it as a podcast, because it is all connected, and we've kind of laid the groundwork for this Arrow project, and then this is just kind of how we take it to that next step. So that's it on Arrow for now. If you are interested in some of that Arrow stuff, where's the best spot, Ben?
It's on our Facebook. It will be all up on our YouTube.
It'll all be on the YouTube. And are you going to do it? Are you going to set it up as like an Arrow playlist?
Yep, we'll have a playlist. If you just go to our channel, go under playlists, and it'll be called Arrow.
So we'll
Arrow
have,
something or other.
yeah. So we'll have a playlist for her. Cody Go Back continues on. Bella will be starting. But there's already old stuff in there. Live with Spry is in there. We just did a podcast and we talked about and referenced Live with Spry quite a bit. So those are all resources, places for you to get more information. I appreciate you guys listening to this, man. We're sticking with, not intentional. Like, I don't mind if it goes longer, but I also think some of these little shorter one-hitter type things where we get a subject and we go and we knock it out. A subject and we knock it out. Those are kind of good. I like them myself. I'm a consumer of podcasts to a degree. Sometimes they get a little long for me, and so we're trying to provide you with that option of some long stuff, some short stuff. We're trying not to smother it with ads. I just can't. More and more where I go, where's the actual podcast here? So we're going to try to avoid that at all costs. And so we're just going to kind of do our thing. But thank you for listening. If you do me the favor, leave a review if you like it. Subscribe to it and share it to someone that you like, or share it to someone that you think might like it. That would be greatly appreciated. Otherwise, thank you for listening, and we'll be continuing to do more.